Hello and welcome to the fourth development blog for A Blast Through the Past. There's been a fair few updates that you've probably seen already. So we already have the background scrolling, so it was easy to just make the platforms go on forever. So I don't have to worry about the background because obviously that's going to scroll with you. So you design a level like this, so it just goes on for a while. We did this via the platforms that we did in the first time with the box colliders, and then you just drag them from the hierarchy, the side panel here, and you just drag them into the project window at the bottom, and it saves it as a prefab, including where the sorting layer is and the actual box collider. So yeah, and the same thing for the enemies. Here, obviously they have the animator on it, they have the rigid body, the 2 polygon colliders, and the script, and you just drag it into the prefab window, and yeah, I'll show you that now. Enemies level 1. And you can just drag them in, and that's got everything there already. Yeah, just add these trees into the back. It's in the sort of the above the background, so it adds a sort of depth to it. There's this cosmetic piece here with the spaceship, and then this is not cosmetic. This is an actual object that's got a box collider on that's on the same level as player, so it's all behind the background, well, behind the ground there, behind the pebbles, and this is what you walk into to trigger the end of the level. So the next level script on here, and it has an index on it, which is a public information type thing that it can access this information. So it's a really short piece of code, really simple. So public int, so public index, so on and trigger 2D on collide 2D if so it's like, oh, it's entered the colliders, it's looking for if something has entered that box. So if the thing that collides with it has the tag of player, use the scene manager to load the scene in an index. So whatever scene is in the index, and the scenes work on the build settings. So it's actually looking for a number for the scenes, so the scenes then get an index number. So the first level was actually testing test, which from when we originally started this, so that's 0, and we want this level to load the first boss, so the number that you need to put there is 1, so when you hit that it will take you to the boss. That works. And we also updated the player with a bit of code, but that's just playing to show you what I mean. So same as normal everything, but now when you die it doesn't just reset the thing, it throws you back with a little animation, and it's like, you died, press enter to restart, and I can't shoot and I can't move, so press enter to restart and it restarts the level, and that works on whatever level you're on. So if you're on the boss or you're on level 2, it will reset you there, and it completely just restarts the scene is what it does. It just completely reloads the scene from scratch. And let's show you how that works. Let's go on to the player, and this is on the deadly script. So So ball is dead, so this is going to be used for the animation of a ball as basically a true or false thing. And public game object, restart text, so it's like, oh, that is what's here, the restart text. It's public game object, so you have to drag something into there, which is that image that we saw when we died there. And that is actually, I believe it's equipped to the main camera UDIDE screen, but you see here how it's unticked, if it's ticked, it's there. So you actually have it there, you set up, and then you untick it, so it's not actually active. We'll go back to the code. So the anim get component animator, this will be for the animator anim. So we'd start saying that anim equals get component animator. So basically it's going to say that this is going to have something to do with the animator. So private void update, the if is dead equals true. So if the is dead is a statement, so that's why it's a bool. So if it equals true, you have the restart text set active to true, so it sets it to being ticked, basically is what that means. It's like, oh, it's true, it's ticked, so that's why it reappears when this happens. And then once that has happened, once that text is on there, and the if dead equals true, so it sets it into this mode of is the player dead? Is this the current setting that it's in, the current mode that it's in? If so, display this text, and then while this mode is active, you can press enter. Or technically, he reads it as the return key. Then use the scene manager, like with the last piece of code, and load scene manager, get active scene, build index. So it's like, okay, whatever the active scene is, build the index, build the database with whatever the active scene is, and load it. Load the current scene. So that's why it reloads whatever one the player is on when they die. And return. So that's, in its own nice little piece. And then the void on trigger, enter 2D, stay 2D, and on collision, enter 2D. So these all cover the same thing. So the code is literally the same between them, it's just different statements for if you've stayed in a collision or you've just entered a collision. It's so you can read it properly without it messing up. Because if you don't have one of them, there could be a thing where it doesn't actually activate if you jump on an enemy and say, oh, well, you've hit them, but you're staying in them, so what do I do? Because there's nothing for staying inside of them and whatnot. So if the other tag is deadly and is dead, if the ball, so this is for the ball, the exclamation point. So if the other tag of whatever you've collided with is deadly, which we've already got for the enemies, so that hasn't changed, and the player's dead, get component, shoot something, enabled equals false, and player platformer 2D user control enabled equals false. So this basically gets the other two pieces of code and makes them false. So it unticks the code at the side. So if we go onto player, you see that there is actually, the code here can be ticked and unticked. So that's what we're using. We're actually making Unity untick them boxes so they're not actually working at all. And, anim set the ball to dies to true. So that's for the animator. So in the animator, you can set the ball to true. And then in the animator, there is this thing for dies. And that's actually from any state to the death animation. There's a transition of if this ball equals true. So if that gets ticked, then you play the animation, and it plays it once, and that's done. So that's why we have that. So it's like, oh, okay, so that's been ticked, and the animator's like, oh, that's been ticked. I need to play this animation, and then get component ready to body, add force. So this basically launches you back on X and Y. So it's like 500 on X, 500 on Y, so you'll get, pushed back if you hit the enemy. And then it sets, so, it does the animation. So it's like, if it does it, and then is dead equals true. So, it's sort of this self-contained, it hits it. It's hit somewhere, and is dead, So it sets the ball to is dead. So if, and then if that is set to true, so if the ball is dead, and that's when, it's like, okay, that's happened, so I need to then, I need to turn off these pieces of code, I need to play, set the animation thing, so that triggers the animation, adds the force to it, and then it sets it to true, which then, once it's set to true, activates the thing, and then you can press enter, and you can't do anything else because it's deactivated that code. So yeah, that's how the death sequence works and how the artifact works. If I actually just go into the project and go into prefab and select the artifact and put it here and have it go index 1, so I can walk left to show you actually how that works. So I have to just run to the end level because you don't want to see that. If I just walk into it, it does the boss. And I'll go into this to show you how it works soon. You see, once I beat the boss, it loads the next scene. And then it'll be the same here. This is another a whole new level that works exactly the same. And it's got pushing blocks, and we'll go over how that works and everything else. Just quickly go through this level. Whatever somewhere else, and it does the same sort of thing. And then when you get to the end of that level, you'll touch another artifact, and then you'll go on to the next boss. So I want to show you how the this works. So we took the code that's on the background images and applied them to the floor. So there's actually a ground one. So that means that, like the background endlessly repeating, the floor will repeat, so you can just endlessly run to the left. Not well, run to the left is because the Rex has got the same piece of code as the basic enemy does, but of course he's got a different tag, which is boss, which means he can't actually respond to the code for the fireball when it hits him. He's got line of sight but he doesn't need to detect anything, and he's got the velocity -3. So normally the Raptors are on -1 to go to the left of the screen, he's on -3, and the camera is no longer following the camera. You know, he's no longer following the camera target on the player. He's now actually following a game object that's on this T-Rex. And attached to that is a collider here, which means that the camera is moving with the T-Rex at all times. Like the camera is moving with this, but then moving with the camera is this box collider, which means the player can only run up to here before running into it, which means you can't run off the screen. You have to constantly be in a certain range of the T-Rex, and it's just this, you have to keep running and you have to keep turn firing it at it. And then obviously instead it's following the camera, so that just appears whenever. Yeah, and then the T-Rex is that, and hasn't got weakness, whatever, and he doesn't die from the fireball, because the fireball only deletes things that hit the tag deadly. So the boss works a bit differently. He has this thing called boss health. You see there's an index on him, on the actual code here, and there's also a public thing which is HP. So index is exactly the same bit of coding that we used for the level, but it just activates on if the health reaches 0, then do whatever's in, load whatever scene is in that index. Yeah. Yeah, so public flow, HP equals 100, and then the index, so literally the same of if HP is below 0, scene manager, load scene, whatever is in the index. So, and then on collider, if the boss collides with anything that equals shoot, HP minus equals 20. So HP has something removed from it, and that number that equals 2 is 20, so it takes 20 off for each time it's hit. But you can obviously increase health, so that means you have to hit it 5 times for it to die. So, and shoot is the tag that is on the fireball. So when a fireball object hits it and it has that tag on it, shoot, it takes off health from it. And when that number, it basically just keeps minusing from that number, and when that number reaches 0, it runs the piece of code for the index of what build setting do I use. So obviously it goes into that, so it wants us to load index 2, so it loads level 2 when it's defeated. And then the Rex also has another thing on it, which is a shooter, and that shoots a standard fireball. It's a different type of fireball from what I've done. It's basically just slightly larger, and it's just the basic spray. And it's a fireball. It's got a collider on it, but instead of the tag being shoot, the tag is deadly, just like the normal enemy. So when it hits you, you die. And it has a speed factor and it has delay. So if we go into the shooter, that's basically a game object that's right on its head, that has that piece of code on. So yeah. Yeah, see? So it's kind of rotated here, and it's at this position here. So that's where it actually is. So sort of we use this line here of rotating it, of it's going to fire this way, to sort of aim it. Because it works on just firing it, horizontally. So if you rotate it, then it ends up firing it horizontally, ends up firing it diagonally. If you rotate it to be like that. Now the public game object projectile, so whatever the projectile is a public game object, so that's why you can drag the fireball in, and that's deadly. A float for speed factor and delay, which means, you know, they're a float, they can be changed. And then vector 3 rotation, so that's why it can work on that. So it works on a core routine, which is here. So while true, yield new return, wait 4 seconds, delay, game object clone. So it's like, okay, we'll fire this and then transform position, which this is just allowing it to fire it and clone, get component rigid body and transform right by the speed factor. So it's like, okay, just launch it this way. So it's literally the velocity is the force that's being applied to it. So it's like, oh, just apply force to this direction on this way every few seconds of whatever the game object is, which is why it's here, game object, initiate projectile, transform position. So it's working out its position, it's initializing it, and then putting force onto it within a matter of seconds. So it's, oh, okay, I've spawned one, now I'm putting force onto it, so it's getting fired this way based on the position and the angle of it. And then, you know, yield new return, wait 4 seconds, delay, and the delay is obviously a public float, so it's like whatever this delay is, which is what can be changed in the side. So I have it as 2 seconds, so it's like, oh, it's like wait for 2 seconds, 2 seconds have passed, run this code, fire it, you know, spawn it, apply force to it, wait 2 seconds, do that again. And now there's something else with the is it next? No, it's the next level code that I want to showcase this with. It was the deadly code, because I had to, because the platform use 2D is in the Unity standard assets, I actually had to make sure that it said up here that it was using Unity standard assets. I actually had to find what the code was using, just like you have to use the scene management thing. Every time you want to use the scene manager, you have to make sure it's up here, because at the start of the code it's telling it, oh, we are using the Unity engine, we are using this part of the engine, we're using this part of it. So yeah, that's how that worked. We go into level 2, and you'll see basically we've got the exact same thing as prehistoric level. We have a background and we have a foreground, and they've got the same exact pieces of code on that are going to repeat. It's got that exact same scrolling background script on it. And like we had the wall at the start of the prehistoric level to stop the player running, we have a pillar here that's unjumpable and made tall with a box collider. Here, again, there's the polygon collider on this instead, so it actually follows the top of it in perfect shape, and you can just sort of mess around with these colliders and they can fit pretty much any shape. But that's what works, even though there's like this little dip here, but doesn't matter because the player's going to be running on it, and that's saved as a prefab as well. So all the stuff is saved here. The beetles, they're running on the exact same code as the pterodactyl and that, so it's basic enemy script, and then just putting in what they detect, which is wall and other deadly things, and their sight and how that works. And the pushing block is, you know, based on wall, and everything else has got wall on it, so it just, you know, goes back and forth in it, but it's the exact same code, just a different thing. So just another sprite sheet that's put in to have that animation going constantly, exactly like the Raptors, the exact same process for it. And then these pushing blocks, what this is a polygon collider, just due to it's not an exact cube, and doing that made it a bit off when trying to do that. It has got a perfectly flat bottom, so that is perfectly fine. That's all that was needed. Needed a perfectly flat bottom to go onto the box collider for these. It's got the design on there, and platform edge just got that, so the player doesn't stick to it properly. It's kind of weird. Still working out some. It's a bit clunky at times, but it's using this the rigid body so you can actually push it. So it's got dynamic, so it can be affected by other things. Obviously, enemies don't walk into it because it's a wall, so before they even hit it, because it's slightly, you know, their vision is slightly above them, they turn around, so they never make any contact with it, but the player can. So that means that they have this mass and this gravitational scale, and that means that I can actually push it. And instead of that, so it is the way, so it's kind of slow, but that means it doesn't tilt, because the simulated physics in Unity would have it tilt if I touch the bottom, so it would sort of, you know, it'd go this way. You know, it kind of, you know, if I was running into it at the bottom, it would end up tipping like that, and if I jumped into it, it'd end up falling like that. And then these are just the same sort of elements that made up the foreground, but split up into different things. They've also got polygon colliders on, just to make it easier. So because the polygon collider can automatically just sort of scan it and apply it to itself. Other than that, they sometimes have like there'll be. I actually had to tweak this because like it was out here originally. It was like just a straight diagonal line. So I actually made it like that, so it could read it properly, but it's a bit easier than just putting, you know, multiple box colliders on it. And then that's the same shape, so I just, you know, saved that as prefab and copy and pasted it and put an enemy on that, and it set as warm, so the enemy just goes back and forth between it. And the same thing for this. And yeah, polygon collider for that. You can sort of see how it's read it and gone, okay, I need to put a lot of it here because of its being square and stuff. It's really good the way polygon colliders work with. It just makes it a lot easier than having to work up boxes. We've got another push block here for going onto an even bigger version of this block, which this is actually, some of it's below the stage because I wanted to do it like that, because I only want the one. So instead of just going to Photoshop object, I'll just put it below the stage. Made this small one-hand thing right here, and then we've got a Sphinx, which to the scale of the player, so the player actually goes up here, has to jump up here, then jump up the Sphinx to get past this, because otherwise they can't. And then we've got this to block the player, so they can't jump up any higher. And we've got another artifact. So I'll quickly just play through the level of this and show you sort of how it plays as a full level when I'm not dying, because there is still some delay and still some stuff that will work out, but obviously like there's a lot of creases to iron out and stuff. And this is just a pillar with the top removed, so you could jump over it. I got Aaron to do that after using a pillar that was upside down real, and this would be really good to jump on, because normally pillars got this sort of shape here. As you see, they're sort of we're using them in the foreground and background, and I can see some people get confused with it, but I think the size difference is what makes them out. But it's really cool to have on your running on and you've got this sort of bricks in the foreground that's also moving along with the background at different rates. See how you move into it, because you could do also that if you enter a push block and have it as a separate tag to start a pushing animation. Oh, of course, I forgot this name here. Yeah, but the background scrolls perfectly fine, I think. The level actually looks good. I think the background blues and like the really sort of bright yellows and oranges sort of contrast well with the beetles being this dark blue on it, and they stick out enough for you to see compared to the sandy blocks that are in the foreground and the actual sand that's on the floor. And these sort of ramps, because they have the physics on it, that if you jump off them, you do sort of end up getting a speed boost. Yeah, you end up just launching yourself, and I've had to put a box collider in the sky so you don't actually launch yourself out of the map. And sometimes this box gets stuck and you have to jump on it, and I'm not sure why. Well, I'm still looking into that, because again, as I said, there's a few issues, but all I'm for is getting the game to work. So yeah, technically you wouldn't even notice it, but you are hitting the collider in the sky. We have this, so I thought it was a really good experience for players to be able to be jumping up on these sort of brick patterned platforms and then realise, oh, I've actually been jumping up the side of the Sphinx. And literally just above the Sphinx head, where the Sphinx top of the head is, that we can't actually see, is the edge of the image for the map. Now again, we'll run to this artifact, and yeah, we'll end up fighting that. this other boss, which is a variant of the beetles that have been in the level, and Aaron just obviously took them and changed it. And I'll show you how this boss works. But again, it's exactly like the T-Rex in terms of we're just reusing that same piece of code of a boss, which allows us to change health. It's actually got more health than the T-Rex, and then change the index to load the levels. This is not the same. This is technically level 3. This is just a placeholder before we actually make the new level, because it's a copy-pasted version of when we first started development on the second level. I need to change that as well quickly. Sorting layer. That one, the same level as the player. Put it back there. There we go. So yeah, that's the same sort of code. And if we go to boss 2. Of course it loads in the same space. So the way this works is the camera is not tracking anything, so the camera is staying still. The camera has got that piece of code like not there, it's been removed. And the way this works is there's multiple game objects, there's ones here. So these are called boss gates, so these are tags. And it's in the edit, the project settings and the physics 2D you see here. It's so boss gate here and boss do not collide. So the boss can actually walk through the boss gate. But what they can't not run into is this, which is tagged as a wall. And seeing as it's using the same code as the basic enemy, it sees the code, it sees the wall, the tag a wall, and it flips it and turns it back around. But the player cannot walk through these, because the player's still got it so they collide with it. So they can't actually run either side of the screen, so they can't run where the boss is going. So the boss is just there, running this way, running through the boss gate because it doesn't collide with it, seeing the wall, flipping, coming back, going through the boss gate this side, seeing the wall, coming back, and the player cannot go through these ones. And then the boss is still running off the same code, it's running off the basic enemy code of it's on a velocity of -11, and then to 11 to go the other way when it flips, so it's pretty fast. And you know, it's just enough size for you to be able to jump over it, and then you turn, shoot. It's got a bit more health, it's got 20 more health on the boss code, and then again, look at build settings, and it's index 4, which is level 3. So it's all in that health, which is 0, same as the T-Rex boss. Do that. So yeah. It's really useful to keep having the code with Unity and being able to reuse it and just tweak it, and having it set with public bits of information like the index to be able to change it. So yeah, so next time hopefully we'll have a third level and boss to showcase you, and it'll just be about how they work. So yeah, and also again the player has if the tag is boss to kill them, so that's why that worked as well. And you'll notice that the player, when they get hit by this boss, gets launched pretty far because it's applying the velocity to it. If I jump on it, yeah, the physics allow it to sort of, things like that to happen, and usually just sort of see, well, you sort of see it run off screen and you see that it will flip. And if we go to the scene, you'll see that it's hitting that wall and flipping it, hitting that wall and flipping it, and you also see how the player is not able to hit the side of the screen, how they can't actually go through, but the boss can. And again, the boss is just on this constant animation loop that's just sort of there, it's going through and just moving the legs, but at the speed you don't notice it. So yeah, that's all so far of how this game works. That's how the level works, how the bosses work, and how they load the next level, how the artifact loads the next level, and also how the player dies and loses control and then respawns. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.